This video is on Unit 1, Chapter 3 on Systems of Equations, Lesson number 3, where we're going to be looking at systems of equations, applying them to word problems. There are 3 steps here to this. Step number 1 says to define your variable. Basically, you got to ask yourself, what am I looking for? Second step says to set up 2 equations using the information that's given. And then thirdly, we're going to solve the system using the method of choice. And the method of choice for you is going to either be solving by graphing or solving by using polysymult. So the directions here are going to tell you to define your variable and set up a system of equations and then solve. So question number 1, let's look at that. Marcy bought a total of 20 used books and CDs during a yard sale for a total of $54.50. If books cost $1.50 and CDs cost $5 each, how many of each did she buy? The challenge here is that you have to set up two equations because this is a system. How many of each did she buy? We know a lot of information here, and what we want to do is we know about books, we know about CDs. So because there's 2 different things that we don't know, that means we need 2 different equations. So we have 2 unknowns, we need 2 equations. So I'm going to let B represent books, and I'm going to let C be my CDs. Okay? Now, we have to set up an equation here. Let's go back to that first sentence. Marcy bought a total of 20 used books and CDs during a yard sale for a total of $54.50. So we know that she bought a total of 20 used books, total. So the number of books plus the number of CDs that she bought is equal to 20. So B plus C equals 20. The next equation is going to be using the $54.50. We know that the books cost $1.50 and the CDs are going to cost $5. So to find the cost of the total cost of books, we're going to take the $1.50 times the number of books plus $5 for the CDs. And again, that's the $54.50. So that I've got it set up. Those are our 2 equations. We need to set those up. We need to solve. Again, the easiest thing to do here is use polysymult. So go to apps. Again, mine is number 9. Your calculator is going to be slightly different. We're going to select number 2, simultaneous equation solver. Make sure you select that you only have 2 equations, 2 unknowns. Click next or graph, and then we'll fill in our information. 1x plus 1y equals 20. Now, in the calculator, we cannot change the x to a b and the y to a c. You just know that your x and your y are your b and your c. $1.50x plus 5c equals $54.50. And then we want to click on solve. Now that says x is equal to 13 and y is equal to 7. X is our number of books, so we have 13 books. And we have 7 CDs. Question number 2. Again, define your variables, set up 2 equations, and solve. But we really need to read first. So number 2, Landon babysits and works part-time at the water park over the summer. 1 week, he babysat for 3 hours and worked at the water park for 10 hours and made $109. The next week, he babysat for 2 hours and worked at the water park for 12 hours and made $177. How much does Landon make per hour at each job? So it might be helpful when you're defining your variables to read that last sentence or the last question. How much does Landon make per hour at each job? So he's got babysitting. So I'm going to use B for babysitting. and I'm going to use W for water park. Okay. Now I got to figure out, okay, I've defined my variables. I need to set up my two equations. One of the equations comes from week 1. The second equation is going to come from the next week. So 1 week, he babysat for 3 hours and worked at the water park for 10 hours and made $109. Let me back up for just a second. Back on defining my variables, how much does Landon make per hour at each job? So B represents how much money he's making at babysitting, and W represents how much money he's making at the water park per hour. So when we go back to this question, 3 hours babysitting, 10 hours at the water park for $109, we need to take 3 times the babysitting, how much he makes babysitting, plus 10 times the amount of money that he makes at the water park, and that's going to give us a total of $109. The next sentence, the next week, he babysat for 8 hours, so 8B. He worked at the water park for 12 hours for a total of $177. And then once you get them set up, it's very quick and easy. Just stick them in polysimult. Still dealing with 2 equations, so I'm just going to click on Zoom. I'm going to hit Zoom again to clear. 3x plus 10y equals 109. The next equation was 8x plus 12y equals 177. And solve or graph. Now, this is money. Money. Those answers do not look like money. But I would like you to look at my screen here, this FD down here at the bottom. So if I hit graph one more time, it can change fractions to decimals and decimals to fractions. So this is the one and only time so far that I'm going to allow you to express your answers in decimal form. So $10.50 for babysitting. And then it was $7.75 at the water park per hour. Okay. Number 3. Kent has a collection of pennies and nickels with a value of $198. The number of pennies he has is 5 less than twice the number of nickels. How many of each coin does Kent have? How many of each coin does Kent have? We're talking about pennies and nickels. So I'm going to let P be pennies and N be nickels. And again, we're asking how many. All right, let's go back. He has a collection of pennies and nickels with a value of $1.98. A lot of kids want to just say P plus N equals $1.98. Well, that's wrong. The number of pennies that I have plus the number of nickels that I have cannot equal $1.98 unless I multiply them by their value. Pennies are worth 1 cent. Nickels are worth 5 cents. Now, when I multiply 0.1 times P plus 0.05 times N, that's going to give me the $1.98. The second equation, the number of pennies he has is 5 less than twice the number of nickels. That's a write it as you read it statement. The number of pennies he has is 5 less than twice the number of nickels. We write that 2n minus 5. Now, if I'm going to continue to use polysimult here, which is fine, we need to make sure that the second equation looks like the first equation. So what I need to do with this P equals 2n minus 5 is I need to subtract this 2n and bring it to the other side. So P minus 2n equals negative 5. So now I can use those 2 equations to solve this using polysimult. So again, going back to polysimult, click on Zoom again to clear out. And let's put our equations in there. 0.01 x plus 0.05 y equals $1.98. For my second equation, it was 1p or 1x minus 2y equals -5. And solve. So there are 53 pennies and 29 nickels. For number 4, the theater sells three types of tickets: general admission, senior citizen, and child. Mark bought 9 general admission, 2 senior citizen, and 3 child tickets and paid $170. Sarah bought 5 general admission, 4 senior citizen, and 7 child tickets and paid $173. Kyle bought 4 general admission, 1 senior citizen, and 6 child tickets and paid $116.15. Find the cost of each type of ticket. So I like this type of word problem. It's very easy to set up. Each person, Mark, Sarah, and Kyle, are all going to have their own equation based on what they purchased. I'm going to let G be general admission, S be senior citizens, and C for child. Now, you do not have to use a G and an S and a C, and I should have said that back on number 1. You don't have to use these letters. You could always choose to use X and Y, or in this case, an X and a Y and a Z. Let's make Mark's equation. Mark bought 9 general admission, so that's 9G. He bought 2 senior citizen and 3 child tickets. So you add all that up, and his equation is going to be equal to $170. Sarah's equation, because Sarah bought 5 general admission and 4 senior citizen and 7 child tickets for a total of $173. Kyle's equation, 4 general admission, 1 senior citizen, and 6 child for $116.50. All right, so let's put that in the calculator. Polysimult, go back to Zoom. Actually, you know what? We don't need Zoom. If you look at this, there's not enough equations, there's not enough variables. So go back 1 to window. We need to change this to 3 and 3. We have 3 equations, we have 3 unknowns. Click on next, which is graph, and let's put in our information. 9x plus 2y plus 3z equals 170. The next equation, 5g or x plus 4s or y plus 7 equals 173. Last equation, 4 plus 1 plus 6 equals $116.50. Now solve. And again, this is giving us in order the X, Y, Z, or for ours, the general admission, senior citizen, and the child. So the general admission is $13.50. The senior citizen was $11.50, and the child's ticket was $8.50. Last one, number 5. Jamie has a collection of 78 nickels, dimes, and quarters worth $12.40. If the number of quarters is doubled, the value becomes $22.15. How many of each type of coin does Jamie have? So these word problems dealing with coins are a little more difficult, and you really kind of have to think because for this one, there is a number. We know that we have total 78. The number of nickels plus the number of dimes plus the number of quarters is going to equal 78. We also have a total value for all of those. So we need the value of each of those nickels, dimes, and quarters in order to set up another equation. So one equation is going to be equal to 78. One equation is going to be equal to $12.40. Then you have your third equation, because you're dealing with nickels, dimes, and quarters. You have three unknowns. We need three equations. The third equation is going to have something to do with this $20.15. But let's set this up. I'm going to use N for nickels, D for dimes, and Q for quarters. And the number of nickels plus the number of dimes plus the number of quarters is equal to 78, because I know I have 78 total coins. Then I can set up another equation using the $12.40. So nickels are worth 5 cents. Dimes are worth 10 cents. Quarters are worth 25 cents. And that's a value of $12.40. Now, if the number of quarters is doubled, then I have $22.15. So if the number of quarters is doubled, this equation, the nickel part is not going to change. The number of dimes is not changing. But I need 2Q. So that's going to be, think about that, 0.25 times 2Q is equal to 0.50Q. And that new total is $22.15. All right, let's get that into the calculator. Go back to PolySimult, zoom again to clear that out. That first equation was just 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 78. The second equation was 0.05 for the nickels, 0.1 for the dimes, and then 0.25 for the quarters, and that was $12.40. Now, the third equation, again, we had the same for the nickels, the same for the dimes, but our quarters were doubled. So basically, you've got 50 cents instead of 25 cents, because that's what happens when you double a value of a quarter. Equals to $22.15. Solve. And that tells me I have 25 nickels, 14 dimes, and 39 quarters. So again, 25 nickels, 14 dimes, and 39 quarters. So that is your video for Chapter 3, Lesson 3. We will work on the assignment in class later.